So, just wondering, have any of you heard of this website called Cool Math Games? I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. So, for those of you who don't know what Cool Math Games is it was this little website that had flash games on it. I don't think any of them were actually educational. I don't really know why it had math in the title, to be honest. Big thing when I was in elementary school, I remember that, like, when I was in the computer lab, there would be a ton of kids around me just playing games, playing games on Cool Math. And our teacher never really stopped us. I don't know if that's just because she didn't care as long as they weren't like procrastinating actual work, or if just she saw the name of the website and was like, Cool Math Games, that has to be educational, right? I'm not gonna double check that. There was this one game on the website. It was called Fireboy and Water Girl. Pretty much it was this little platforming game about these two characters. One of them was this little guy who was made of fire, and the other one was this little girl who was made of water. I shit you not, I have seen people online, like, obviously just weirdos online, not in like an actual court of law or anything. I have seen people online that have been trying to say that Pixar ripped off, like plagiarized the concept from this game. Which I find very funny. Like, yes, Disney and Pixar, the biggest animation studio, one of the biggest film studios in the world, just plagiarized this like tiny flash game. I'm calling it now Elemental plagiarized Fireboy and Water Girl controversy is gonna turn into the next The Lion King plagiarized Kimba the White Lion controversy. Okay, so hello, it's your girl Marissa. I'm back with another movie review. Let's talk about Disney and Pixar. Disney and Pixar, what's their deal right now? What are they doing? Because for a while now, for like at least the past year, I have seen some people online saying that it seems like recently Disney and Pixar, they're technically different companies, but I'm gonna lump them together for right now. That Disney and Pixar are going into a little bit of a rut right now. And the movies they're pointing to when they do that are, of course, their two movies from last year, or at least two of their three movies from last year, Strange World and Lightyear. Both of those movies did not do exceptionally well. Like, Strange World especially. Also, with both of these movies, I do when I talk about how they're doing how they did at the box office and everything, I do have to put like a little asterisk that like these movies caused a little bit of controversy because they both had gay characters in them, and because of that, people were boycotting the movie, and that might have contributed a little bit. Not to mention, Disney. People have been saying that Disney kind of killed Strange World itself because it just didn't really advertise it when it came out. Like, Disney's advertisement for that movie was sparse. I swear I almost forgot that it existed. But those movies, obviously most of the time Disney movies are incredibly successful, both like critically and financially, but those movies very much were not. And they also just didn't really catch on. They didn't really become popular. And again, that's a little bit rare. Turning Red, I can't exactly remember off the top of my head how that did. Like, how successful that was. I don't think it was incredibly successful or anything, but I think it did decently. What do I think? Do I think these, like, two, arguably three movies are a sign that, Disney and Pixar are going into a rut? Personally, no. I've even seen people say that, like, it might be a sign that they're going into another dark age. And, to that I say, no, not really. Because, personally, I don't think that, like, single movie did bad necessarily means a lot for the company. Because, like, guys, when I think of, like, Disney's Dark Age, and for those of you who aren't enlightened on Disney history, like, Disney has had pretty much two major Dark Ages in its lifetime. You know, the first one was, you know, after Walt Disney's death. There was a huge Dark Age that reached up to, you know, the release of The Little Mermaid. And the other one was in the early 2000s. That was like multiple film releases that did badly over like multiple failed film releases over like 10 plus years. You know, this is one movie that did badly. By the way, I haven't been talking much about the actual quality of the films. That's because I have not seen Strange World, so I can't really do that. Lightyear I saw, and I actually thought it was pretty good. Like, it was at least better than I was expecting it to be, so maybe low. Lightyear is an example of having low expectations for a movie increasing the amount that you enjoyed it, at least for me. Elemental also did pretty badly. Hold on a second. I'm gonna look up the, give me a minute here. Okay, so, I'm looking at my phone now, and I'm looking at the, film scores. It got a 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 76% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I know you might be thinking, those are really high scores. Like, those are really, really good scores, but you gotta remember, this is Pixar we're talking about. By their standards, like, if you look at, like, the range, like, the typical score that a Pixar movie gets, you know, anything below an 80 can be considered a failure. Yeah, it did actually get some, pretty harsh reviews from critics, and, financially didn't do amazing. Like, you might say 2 movies in a row that did kind of poorly, like, isn't that a big deal? Again, in my opinion, not really. I don't know, let's see how their next movie does. Because, like, you know, with Disney, Wish has not come out yet, and we don't know how it's gonna do when it comes out, so, you know, maybe this is gonna age the video really badly, but, like, you know, Wish could come out and do amazing, and be, like, incredibly successful. We just don't know. And, like, movies that come out after Wish could be incredibly successful. Like, I don't know, I'm gonna call it a dark age when we have, like, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 movies. I'll judge after that. Okay, but that's enough talking about them. Let's talk about the actual movie now. So I saw the teaser trailer for this movie when it came out, and I think I had higher expectations for it than most people did, because a lot of people, let's be honest here, kind of came after this movie before it came out. Actually, one of the earliest videos talking about this movie, it's this video I found really funny. I might actually link it on the video, but it was this parody video of you know, the character Wade, who's the little water guy, and it was this, like, short animation of him going, "I like the word moist." And, like, as he says it, there's, like, a dramatic swelling, music behind him. If you haven't seen the video, I'm probably describing it really badly, but, I'm gonna link that below. And, this isn't a super reliable source, but I did see comments on that video saying, okay, why did people actually think this was a real leak for the movie? But anyway, some other videos I saw before this movie came out is, for some reason, in the months leading up to this movie's release, I got recommended a ton of videos on this movie. Like, a ton of video essays on this movie saying that, basically talking about how this movie represented a huge flaw. Hold on, I made this post on my DeviantArt. I think I can, Okay, so here's a little post I made on my DeviantArt, which, by the way, you should totally follow me on if if you want to hear my stupid thoughts, because I post my stupid thoughts on there a lot. So lately on YouTube, I've been getting recommendations for videos about how Elemental is proof that Pixar is regressing, or how the movie represents everything wrong with Pixar these days. I legitimately just got recommended a video about how Elemental is a rehash of Zootopia. Guys, ... The movie hasn't come out yet. Calm down. Like, I mentioned this in my Little Mermaid review, but like lately I've been trying to not have expectations for movies before they come out, which, okay, that might sound a little bit strict, but yeah, this movie for some reason was just getting a lot of hate, like a lot of legitimate hate before like it actually came out, and like, I don't really get why. Like, a ton of people right before the movie came out were like, this movie is gonna be a rehash of other movies, this movie is gonna be uncreative, this movie is gonna be unoriginal, this shows like how Disney and Pixar are just completely unoriginal these days, like, and on the one hand, I kind of get it, because even I thought, like, before the, like, just when I was seeing the first, like, trailers for the movie, I was like, this kind of looks a little bit generic. Like, this kind of looks like a kind of generic romantic comedy movie is kind of the vibe I was getting before. But, yeah, I actually saw the movie again, and, the same thing that happened to me when I saw The Little Mermaid happened again. I was the only childless adult in the theater. Like, I actually, this is a little surprising, with how poorly the movie did at the box office, but it was a pretty packed theater. And, I was the only person there alone. And, yeah, the entire theater was families with young kids, and I was just like, I went in, I sat down, and I was just like, okay, kill me. Just little old me, just sinking into my chair, trying to make sure no one sees me in a room of hyperactive 3 to 8-year-olds. That's my life. Okay, so what's the actual movie about? Okay, so Elemental takes place in this world where pretty much all of the people are made of the different elements. Like, there are the fire people, water people, air people who are kind of just made of clouds, and then plant people. Story is about this girl named Ember, and like she's this little fire person, and her parents own this store. Like, her parents, before she was born, like, came to like the big city, and were like some of the first like fire people to like immigrate to the big city, and they started this little store there. And Ember, her entire life, has been kind of preparing to take over the store for her father, who's been like, getting close to retiring. And she's been trying really, really hard to like prove to her father that she's ready to take over the store, because like her entire thing is that she's very hot-headed. She's not really good at dealing with customers because of that, and her father keeps telling her, you're not ready, you're not ready. You need to learn to deal with your temper before you can like take over for me. And one day her father puts her in charge of the store when there's like this really big sale going on. And, like, the store is super busy. He's like, if you can deal with this, you can have the store, because I know that you can deal with anything if you can deal with this, pretty much. And she gets really heated. Like, she gets really close to just snapping on everyone in the store because she's really busy and overwhelmed. And I do have to say, if you have ever worked a job in retail, there are some scenes in this movie that just hit. I work in retail, and there are a few moments in this movie that I was just like, I relate to this way too. I relate to this so much it hurts. But like I was saying, she goes into the basement and she accidentally breaks a pipe, And when she does that, this water guy who's this like little water guy who's named Wade comes out of the pipe, and he's a city inspector. And because of that, he's like, hey, I notice you have a lot of like code violations in your shop, and I think I might have to like, I think that these could actually get your shop closed down. And like he feels really guilty about it, but like he, tells his boss about that, and like he ends up deciding to help her try to make sure the store doesn't get closed down, and they go on this little adventure together, and they at first they don't like each other, but then they over the course of like spending time together, they realize that they're in love with each other. Rom-com plot. But like, isn't that weird? Because she's the fire lady and he's a water guy. How can they make this work? Opposites, Yeah, kind of a generic premise, and I do get why a lot of people just like weren't really interested in seeing this movie just off the premise alone. What's my verdict? I liked it. I don't think it's a great movie. There are tons of much better, like, if I had to grade it, I guess, this is like kind of a lower B tier or higher C tier Pixar movie, but I'd kind of put it where I put the new Little Mermaid movie, which I reviewed. I'm working on the editing for that review right now as I'm recording this. But I would kind of put it at the same level as that, is like, this is cute. This is fun. This is enjoyable, I would say, but this is not amazing or anything. And I do kind of get that with Pixar movies. Some people go into every Pixar movie expecting amazing, expecting like top tier. And this is definitely not top tier. Okay, so the best thing about this movie, the absolute best thing about this movie for sure, is the visuals. Like, holy crap, this might be one of Pixar's like most visually impressive movies in terms of just like the art and the animation. I actually made this other little post on my DeviantArt, just says Spider-Verse ... Mario ... Elemental ... Teenage Kraken ... the new TMNT movie that's coming up. Why are cartoons this year so damn pretty? Yeah, I really mean that. Like, I feel like this year has been such a good year for animation, just in terms of like quality of like the animation. Like, I feel like this year there have been a ton of movies that have just really, like, animated movies that have just really pushed the like quality of the animation itself. Like, a lot of very pretty things are coming out this year, and I think that's great. Like, Spider-Verse is obviously the big one. That movie looked incredible. But, like, the Mario movie, that also had, like, super pretty animation in it. Teenage Kraken, I haven't seen yet, but, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, that one I haven't seen yet, but, like, the animation in that movie looks very solid. I've kind of brought it up before, but the new TMNT movie too, that movie looks like it's going to be very, very visually impressive. But this movie, for one thing, I can't help but look at these characters and think this had to be a bitch to animate. Like, this had to be hard. It had to be a pain in the ass to animate these characters. Like, you have especially the two main ones, you have the water people. Like, water is hard to animate, guys. I don't think a lot of people really know that, but like, water is anyone who is animated will tell you water can be incredibly difficult to animate, especially in like CGI. Like, so like, with the water people, like, whenever they move, like, the water that they're made out of kind of like swishes around. Like, I remember there's one part where there's this one scene where Wade is wearing headphones, and like, the sound is causing like, the vibrations of the sound is causing like ripples that you can like see in his head. It looks really cool. And like with the fire people, like anytime they're on like screen, like the flames on the top of their head, on the top of their head, like keep moving, like move semi-realistically. I can't help but think like that had to be hard. Yeah, so that is very impressive. And just aside from just like technical, let's face it, showing off, because this movie, it did kind of feel like Pixar just like, this movie kind of was just Pixar flexing. Like, aside from just how impressive it is, like, it's also just very, very pretty. Like, I feel like the design of Element City was very creative. Like, they really get creative with, like, how do these, like, element people live exactly? And there's just a lot of parts of this movie that just have very, very pretty, like, designs, like very pretty background designs, very pretty colors. Obviously this should go without saying in, like a Pixar movie, but very solid animation just as a whole, with like the movements, the lighting and everything. All of that looked great. And they do a lot of cool things with like the world, like and the designs. Like, for example, like I said, the main character Ember's family owns this store. So the fire people in this movie, like, eat wood, which, makes sense because, like, that's what you do with fires. But, like, they eat wood and, like, in the little, like, in their grocery store, like, it looks kind of like a regular grocery store, but then, like, all of, like, the food in it is wood. Like, they have this one little, like, display case where in the grocery store they would, like, put, like, slabs of meat or something, but, like, it's all just, like, pieces of wood, but it still looks like that. I don't know. I thought it was pretty creative. And, the story I would have to say is the, like, story and the main characters, I would have to say are pretty cliche, but at the same time, pretty likable. Like, I would definitely say that, Ember and Wade are pretty likable main characters, and they have a pretty nice dynamic. Like, the movie really does play around with, the whole opposites motif. Like, not just, in their actual, like, elements, but like with their personalities and their backgrounds. Like, Ember is very confrontational, like I said, she's hot-headed, she's very aggressive with people, she doesn't take any nonsense, she can be like very just in your face, very passionate about what she does, very determined. And Wade, on the other hand, who, like, has had a very different lifestyle, obviously. He's a lot more emotional, like, very, very emotional. A lot kinder, a lot more polite, a lot softer, really. And I think the movie played with, like, that dynamic well. Like, I like how they show in, like, how in some situations, like, being aggressive and confrontational can be, like, less effective than being like a little bit softer, a little bit nicer, and the two characters are like working together. They do have a cute kind of relationship. Like I said, it is a very generic rom-com story, very generic rom-com story, like the two leads meet and they get off to a rough start. They have to work together and like they're total opposites, but then they realize that they like each other, but then there's a misunderstanding, which we're gonna get to. But I feel like I like that story in this movie more than I usually do. And by the way, if you're wondering how far like they take, like how subtle they are with the immigrant story, with the kind of interracial relationships story, the answer is they're not subtle. They are not remotely subtle with this. There's Like, to give you an idea, there's straight up this one part of the movie where Ember meets Wade's family, and one of his relatives actually says, like, you know, you're very well spoken. If that doesn't give you an idea for how subtle this movie is, I don't know what will. And this movie actually was directed and co-written by someone who does have a similar background to Ember. The director of this movie, who also co-wrote the script, Peter Son, he did actually, like, somewhat base this movie around, like, his experiences as coming from, like, a Korean immigrant family. So this did feel like kind of a personal story too, I have to say. Another thing I liked about this movie, like I said, I really liked Ember at the beginning. Like, I really liked Ember just in general. I really started liking her at the beginning of the movie. I think she's a pretty interesting character. I don't think her arc was executed the best, but I do think her arc was interesting. Like, pretty much her arc is just, you know, as the concept of the movie would kind of imply, getting out of her element, you know. She starts the story, like, when she starts the story, she has been living in, like, this one small part of the town the entire time. She hasn't really gone out and experienced other things. You know, she's kind of, like, at the beginning of the story, she's kind of hyper-focused on this one thing, which is just getting her father to think she's ready to take over the shop so that she can take over the shop. You know, she hasn't really explored anything else. And you know, in this movie, because of this situation, she's, like, forced to actually go into a different part of the city and, like, experience other things, really. Other things that, like, she's not familiar with, and, like, spend time with this person who, like, is very different from her, and because of that, she's able to kind of expand her worldview quite a bit. You know, think about, like, what do I really want from life? Do I want this one thing that I've been chasing after for so long? Do I possibly want something else? Do I possibly want to try something else with my life? Which I think was a pretty interesting arc for her, even if it honestly wasn't really executed the best. Like, it's a really good arc conceptually, but, like, honestly, it wasn't executed that well. And yeah, we might as well get into things I liked less about this movie. The big one, like I said, Ember's arc. Very, very good on paper. Wasn't executed that well. So Ember's storyline, like I said, she starts to experience other things, and she starts to wonder, do I really want to run my dad's shop, or do I want something else? This is the part where I'm actually going to get into more of, like, a plot synopsis. So, spoiler town. Like I said, there's one part where she goes to dinner with Wade's family, and they accidentally break this, like, glass pitcher. She fixes it, like, really quick because, you know, she's fire. That's what she does. There's this earlier scene, actually, where her and Wade are on the beach together, and, like, she's accidentally burning the sand underneath her. And it's one of the first signs in the movie that she kind of has a thing for making glass, which, you know, makes sense. You know, you make glass with fire, so that makes sense. But when she fixes this pitcher at dinner, Wade's mom actually goes, you know, you're really good at, like, glass sculpting. She's like, you know, there's actually this, like, you could actually get an internship for this. And then later on, I'm trying to remember exactly how it went, but I think Wade's mom actually, like, contacted this place where she could get, like, this agency would be, like, far away from the city, but you know, she's like, I think that you could go, I think you have a real talent for this. And then after that scene, like, Ember is actually thinking about it and considering it, and that makes her come to the realization that she doesn't actually want to run her father's shop. She actually just comes to the realization that she has never actually wanted to do that. And she's always just, like, internalized that she has to. That, like, running her father's shop is a requirement for her, because like her parents made a ton of sacrifices for her, so she has to do what they want her to do, which is taking over their store. But my problem with this is just one little thing. This development honestly comes out of nowhere. Because like I said, at the beginning of the movie, Ember's entire thing is, I want to prove to my father that I can take over the store for him. I am desperate to show my father that I can handle it so that he'll give me the store. Like, there's no hints at the beginning of the movie that, like, she doesn't actually want that. Like, if you watch her scenes, like, early on in the movie, you really, like, you straight up see her as, like, a little kid going, I want to run the store someday, and being, like, super enthusiastic about it. The movie doesn't really indicate at all that this is something she's being forced into. Like, it seems like she is happy about working at the shop. It seems like she is, like, passionate about the store. Up until this point, like, this just comes out of nowhere, honestly. I feel like this could have been fixed if we got just early on in the movie, like, during, like, the flashback, if they just showed any indication that, like, Ember doesn't want to work there. If they just didn't make it look like Ember is just enthusiastic and happy about working there. Like, I will say, like, the only real indication we get about that is, like, like I said, there are scenes where, like, she's working in the shop where she's, like, overwhelmed and she seems tired. But, like, other than that, where did this come from? There are points where she's, like, mad at dumb customers, but that is quite literally everyone who works in retail, regardless of how much they like their jobs. So, like, and honestly, I feel like Ember's arc is a much less interesting and much less well-executed version of May's arc from Turning Red. I was thinking about the movie, like, after I saw the movie, I was just thinking about it, and Turning Red came to mind, and I think that movie, like, I just started comparing the two in my mind, and I think Turning Red did a much better job at, like, the same basic premise. Because in that movie, it's pretty much made abundant right at the beginning. Pretty much as soon as the movie begins, it's made clear that, like, the main character, May, who is also like this girl from an immigrant family, like, she loves her parents and she thinks that she needs to do anything in her power to please her parents and to make them happy and to do what they want her to do. She works really hard to get good grades in school to please her parents and to impress her parents. But, at the beginning of the movie, we learn very quickly that, like, May has a good relationship with her parents, but her mom is incredibly overbearing, and, like, as the movie goes on, May starts to rebel, she starts to do things differently, and, that causes conflict between her and her mom. But, like, it works so much better just because at the beginning of the movie, it's made clear that, like, May kind of forces herself to be the kind of person her parents want her to be. Like, it doesn't come out of nowhere. And I feel like this movie just goes down, like, kind of follows a similar kind of structure. Girl tries to live up to her parents' expectations. She realizes she doesn't want that because of, like, other experiences she has because of the story. And then at the end of the movie, she just tells her parents, I'm not the person that you want me to be, and I want to live my life and I want to live my life for myself. Like, it follows it follows a lot of the same beats, but I just feel like Turning Red was so much better executed just because it made the conflict and it established the conflict in the characters' actual, like, motivations very early on in the movie. As opposed to Elemental, where it just kind of comes out of nowhere. You might notice that when I'm talking about, like, character arcs and character development in this movie, I'm kind of focusing a lot on Ember, and the reason for that is Wade is a lot less interesting. And honestly, that's always kind of a pet peeve for me with romance movies. It's why I don't really get into a lot of, like, anime romantic comedies where, like, you have, like, super boring guy surrounded by like a big harem of girls who are cute and have actual personalities. Like, I don't like it in romance stories when like one character has like a lot of development, a lot of personality, and like the other one is just kind of also there and they don't really have a whole lot of identity outside of just the romance story. I don't know, maybe saying that he is a harem anime protagonist is a little harsh, but like I do feel like that's kind of the case here. Like, Wade has a little bit of a character arc, like a itty bitty little character arc, but like really all of his development and all of like his personality just revolves around boyfriend. I even wrote here in my notes, like the way I put it in my notes is just Wave just did nothing but be boyfriend. Like, I feel like this movie would have been stronger if just he also had a character arc. I think that would have made the movie more interesting. As it stands, he's just kind of a static character the entire time and a lot less interesting. Another problem I had with this movie is just it's a little bit slow. Like, I feel if you compare it to like other like Disney movies and Pixar movies, this movie doesn't really have much of a plot. Like, straight up, the main conflict of this movie is just there is a drain that's not working. Like, straight up, I'm not shitting you on this. You know, I guess that's interesting. Like, I guess it's interesting to have, like, a story where where, like, the conflict is, like, character-driven instead of, like, driven by an external force. I guess that's neat. But, like, it does kind of lead to a movie that's just kind of slow. Like, I kind of wonder if kids would have a hard time sitting through this movie. Like I said, I saw this movie in, like, a crowded theater of small children. And, I don't know, the kids I saw this with did seem a little bit antsy, but, like, I think antsy is, like, the default state of young kids, so, not sure how much that says about the movie. Didn't really have that much of a plot. Up until the ending. Okay, so I gotta say, with romantic comedies, as well as with animated movies, my least favorite part usually is the third act complication. I hate the third act complication, you guys, you have no idea. Big reason that I have a hard time watching rom-com movies, I just hate the part that is in all rom-com movies where, like, the characters, they spend so much time bonding, falling in love, getting to know each other, but then at the end of the movie, or like, not end of the movie, like third act, for like no reason, they just get mad at each other and they get in a fight and like they separate, go their separate ways to sulk. And that is what happens in this movie. It always gets under my skin because it is always so cliche. It is always so boring. It always, like, pretty much destroys most of, like, the characters' like, built-up chemistry with each other that, like, are you seriously telling me they spent so much time, like, building a connection, but now they're just gonna, like, not talk a conflict out like adults? Like, after they spent so much time, like, getting to know each other and becoming important to each other, they're just gonna go their separate ways and sulk like 4-year-olds instead of like working conflicts out like an adult. Are you seriously telling me that's what we're doing now, movie? It is very rare that this doesn't bug me. A lot of animated movies do that too, you know. I feel like most Disney movies, that's like for a while, the most contrived one that I saw was actually last year's The Bad Guys, which had a very contrived third act conflict moment. For a while, I was like, this might be the most contrived third act conflict scene I have seen in like an animated movie. But you know, this movie might have just stolen its title. Like, it pretty much feels like Ember gets mad and snaps at Wade just because she is aware that she is in a movie, and she is aware that this is the part of movies where the two leads get mad at each other for no reason. So pretty much Ember says, I don't actually want to take up my father's store, but I'm still going to anyway. And Wade's like, why are you doing that? And she's like, 'cause I have to. And they get into a fight over that. She goes home, and her father's like, okay, you're ready to take the shop. It's yours now. I even made you this little sign that has your name on it to guilt trip you into not telling me that you don't want to run my stupid grocery store. And this is the single worst part of the movie for me. This is the single most poorly written scene in the entire movie that's coming up right here. So pretty much, Ember's dad throws her this big party with the whole neighborhood to celebrate her taking over the store, and then at the party, literally at the party, Wade shows up, because like I said, Ember told him off and told him, I don't want to see you anymore, we're over. But he shows up at the party. This is really stupid, because he's met Ember's dad before, and like Ember's dad is like very prejudiced against water people, and they had to keep their relationship hidden the entire movie because of that. But he shows up at this party and in front of her family, like, makes this big declaration of love, which is like, and also says, you need to follow your heart. And like, it's like, dude, you could have picked some other time to do this. Any other time would have been better than this. Why'd you have to do it like at her, like in front of her dad? This just felt very stupid, and also like something like the character wouldn't actually do. So third act complications always suck. And then during that scene, like, Ember just tells him, I don't love you, very dramatically, and he leaves. And then after that, because if you know complications, you know that there's the fight, but then a thing happens which makes the people come back together. And in this movie, that thing is, there's a flood, because like I said, the main conflict of this movie, which I'm talking very little about in this review of this movie, is there's basically this problem with the city's plumbing. This world has plumbing, don't think about it too hard. This problem with the city's plumbing, and it's, in the entire movie, the characters are worried that it could potentially cause a flood, and then a flood happens. And then Wade is actually about to leave town. He's about to just leave because this girl told him no. But then he sees that there's this big flood going towards, like, Ember's town. So he's like, I can't leave, I have to save my woman now. And he goes there, and Ember's store gets flooded, and he shows up to save her. And what ends up happening is both of them get stuck in like this room together. And okay, I said the party scene was probably the dumbest part of the movie. This next scene too, actually. They both get stuck in this room together, and because Ember's in there, of course the room is getting like very hot, and it's actually causing Wade to evaporate. And then he does that, and before he goes, he's like, I love you, baby. Bye. He gives this whole monologue about how, oh, this is okay because you brought light into my life and I love you. Dies. If there's one trope that I hate more than the third act complication, I guess the third act complication isn't really a trope, it's more of like a storytelling device, but whatever. It's fake out deaths. I am starting to really hate fake out deaths in movies. I talked about this a little bit in my Shazam video, which you should go check out. You guys, you have no idea. I am just really, really starting to get sick of fake out deaths in movies. Fake out deaths in movies in general, but like specifically fake out deaths in kids' movies. I don't know why I hate that more. I just do for some reason. I'm just starting to get tired of the moment in the third act at the climax where everyone's like, the protagonist is dead, and everyone's sad, and then the protagonist isn't dead anymore. Also, a minor problem I had with the Dungeons and Dragons movie, though I'll give it this, and that movie was quick. But like, I always find this shit manipulative. I always find this shit boring. I'm always like, you're not allowed to pull out all the death scene things, all the death scene feels, if like you're not actually gonna commit to it. Like Pixar, don't get it twisted. There was that one scene in Lightyear that actually made me cry a little bit. Yeah, I know, shut up. But like, you're not getting me with this one. I refuse. There actually was a scene in Lightyear that made me cry anyway. And in this movie, it feels more stupid than it usually is. Cause third grade science question. What happens to water when it evaporates? Pause the video and type the answer to that question in the comments if you like. What happens to water when it evaporates? Does the water die? No, it doesn't. No, when water evaporates, if water evaporates in like a confined space, the water just kind of sticks to the roof. So in this movie, they make a big deal. They're like, he's dead. Actually, what happens is after the flood is over, Ember's family finds her in, the little space where they were trapped together, and she comes out, and for some reason the first thing she does is just look at her dad and tell him, I don't want to run the shop, which felt weird to me. I'm like, your boyfriend just died? Why is this what you're thinking about? I mean, I guess you could say that, like I said before, Wade's entire thing was trying to convince Ember that she needs to follow her heart and she should just tell her dad that she doesn't want to run the shop. So maybe this is like a I'm doing what he would have wanted to moment, but it still feels a little odd to have that conversation with her father right after she just like watched her boyfriend die. And then she's like, he's gone, I'm sad. And her parents are like, okay, we don't have a problem that you are in an interracial relationship anymore. I don't even think kids fall for this shit anymore. I do not even think kids fall for the death cliche, for the fake out death cliche anymore, because it is in so many goddamn movies. It's in so many goddamn, kids movies specifically. I don't think kids fall for this. Especially since, I feel like a lot of kids know what happens when water evaporates. This is literally something they learn in elementary school. Seriously, the last time that, a death fake out in an animated movie didn't bother me, I'd say, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, which was last year, wasn't that long ago, actually, and, technically it wasn't a death fake out in that movie, but I feel like it was a lot better, because, it feels like it actually had, story reasons, character development reasons to have happened, and in this movie it just felt dumb and cheap and pointless. But anyway, long story short, Wade's alive. The movie ends with someone else, her parents retire, some other guy takes over the store, and she actually leaves the city to go on the glass making internship. Okay, so with how ranty that got at the end, you might be thinking, are you sure you liked this movie? Because it seems like you have a lot of problems. The ending of this movie is weak. The third act of this movie, I had problems with it. I just have problems with, those goddamn cliches. And, they're just something I am sick of seeing in movies. This is why I kind of avoid... Are you seeing why I kind of avoid rom-com movies now? It's because I can't with those tropes. I guess fake out death isn't an actual... I can't with third act contrived shit that is in rom-com movies typically. The story of this movie has a lot of problems, but I think this movie is a mixed bag, because on the one hand it has some moments that are genuinely just bad writing, but at the same time, I think for the most part, most of the movie, it's very nice. I thought this movie had some, cute romantic moments. Like I said, I thought the characters were likable. I liked seeing them interact, and I think that Like, some of, like, the romantic moments in this movie were very cute. Like, I think the best moment in this movie, honestly, is the scene where, Ember and Wade touch for the first time. Like, I thought that scene was very just well done. Just very, very sweet, very emotional, good music, good animation. I also thought this movie had some, like, fun moments, like, some funny moments, too. Like I said, they do a lot of jokes with, like, the elements the characters are made of, and I thought that was cute. This movie's not exceptional, but I think that, you know, at least for what it is, it's a pretty good movie. Pretty big flaws, but pretty good movie. And with that, I am out. I'm hoping to have more like full scripted videos, fully scripted, edited videos up soon, so get ready for that. Have a great day.